Intro with the blood clots, I said. Well, Doc, I don't think it's right, but if you got this from your parents as if this was hereditary, then that means all your years of drinking. He once played Zakk Wylde guitar with his own blood, passed out drunk behind the stage, and trashed hotel rooms with Ozzy Osbourne, only to return later and clean everything up like nothing ever happened. Zakk Wylde isn't just a guitarist, he's stormed the roaring soul of American heavy metal for over 3 decades, but now in his 50s Zakk walks on stage no longer with a bottle of Jack in his hand, but with sober eyes, a clean heart, and a guitar that once belonged to Dimebag Darrell, the man who used to live by the scream of a Marshall amp, now quietly talks to God every morning. He still wears leather, still sports a wild beard, but he slowed down as if fully aware of the price of going too far again. Zakk Wylde didn't fall to scandal, didn't get swallowed by fame, he chose to stop, rise, and move forward, and because of that, he's become a rare figure in the metal world, a wild soul who knew when to stop, a warrior who never betrayed his fallen brothers, and a father, a husband, a friend, without pretending to be one. This story isn't just about a rocker who survived, but about a soul once lost in the dark, now walking in the light, not to be praised, but to prove that true strength doesn't lie in a riff, it lies in staying loyal to who you are. Early life. Jeffrey Phillip Early Life Vant was born on January 14, 1967 in Bayonne, New Jersey, a working-class industrial town where no one expected one of the most distinctive guitarists of the 1980s to emerge. His family was of Polish descent and lived a modest life, not poor enough to starve, but far from having money for Marshall amps or Black Sabbath tickets. His father Jerome grew up in an orphanage, something Zakk rarely speaks about publicly, but everyone understands. His toughness and quiet demeanor stem from there. Zakk's childhood was filled with a quiet loneliness, the kind that haunts a kid obsessed with music, but with no one to share it with. At age 8, he picked up his first guitar, then gave it up. At 14 he returned, and this time he never let go. Zakk began practicing guitar like it was the only path left. Some days he played for 12 hours straight until his fingers bled, dozing off in class, his mind consumed by notes and vibrating strings, while other kids played sports. Zakk locked himself in the garage, replaying the same solo over and over until his hands went numb, not because anyone forced him, not because he dreamed of being a star, he just felt he had a reason to exist when the guitar was with him. School meant little. Zakk went through it as a duty. But it was there he first felt what it was like to stand before an audience, performing at school shows with a crude guitar and eyes full of nerves and defiance. Those performances didn't make anyone scream, but they taught Zakk one crucial thing: if you want to be heard, your guitar has to speak loud and true. Early career. After graduating from Jackson Memorial High School in New Jersey, Zakk worked at a supermarket while playing in a local band called Zias. Around this time, he began using the stage name Zakk Wylde, a self-made name, short Wylde, and the kind you have to ask twice because no one knows how to spell it. Zakk's childhood didn't carry major upheavals, but every passing day instilled one truth: if there's no light coming from outside, he would build a fire himself, and the guitar, from a lifeless object, gradually became the thing that defined both the identity and destiny of Zakk Wylde. No one taught him how to become an artist, but through relentless repetition and an obsession with every note he learned how to live and how to never look back. Early career. In the 1980s in New Jersey, Zakk Wylde wasn't a name anyone paid attention to. He played in a small band called Zias, performing at local bars with an old Gibson Les Paul slung over his shoulder, standing in the background, riffing behind the lead vocalist. No spotlight, no praise, but even if no one was watching, Zakk played with everything he had. Even if there were only 3 drunk guys there, I'd still play like I was opening for Black Sabbath at Madison Square Garden. He once said, "It wasn't arrogance, it was attitude, the kind that makes an otherwise hopeless musical journey take a turn." In 1987, when Jake E. Lee left Ozzy Osbourne's band, A Quiet Search began for his replacement. One of Zakk's former A Quiet Search guitar teachers suggested he send a demo tape to Sharon Osbourne. The tape contained only a few riffs, a short solo, and some rough vocals. No production, no polish, but it was enough to make Ozzy stop in his tracks. There was something in the way Zakk played, raw, unrestrained, yet precise, that Ozzy couldn't ignore. Their first meeting played out like a scene from a real-life rock movie. "I was shaking like a leaf," Zakk recalled. He said, "Play," and I could barely lift my hand, but after just a few notes, Ozzy turned to Sharon and said, "He's the one." Within months, Zakk, the soft-spoken blonde kid fresh out of an unknown band, officially became Ozzy Osbourne's new guitarist, stepping into the shoes once filled by legends like Randy Rhoads and Jake E. Lee. No Rest for the Wicked. In 1988, they released their first album together, No Rest for the Wicked. What Zakk brought wasn't imitation, it was a completely original style: razor-sharp riffs, blistering yet soulful solos, and above all a profound respect for Ozzy's music. In less than 2 years, Zakk went from a nameless local guitarist to one of the most promising young faces in American metal. But what set him apart wasn't just technique, it was emotion. Every time he stood beside Ozzy, Zakk didn't just play, he bled, he lived it, he performed like he was delivering his own farewell, and from that point on, Zakk Wylde's career was No longer a lonely grind in a cold garage, it became part of a legend where a kid from New Jersey was entrusted with carrying the final scream of an icon career breakthrough. Zakk Wylde, No More Tears, officially entered the ranks of heavy metal's great guitarists when he released No Rest for the Wicked 1988 with Ozzy Osbourne. At the time, no one knew this blonde-haired ferocious guitarist would stay by the Prince of Darkness for so long. But it was Zakk with his brutal playing, gritty tone, and a die-before compromise spirit who helped Ozzy transition through the difficult period following the death of Randy Rhoads and the departure of Jake Lee. The 1991 album No More Tears marked a major milestone in Zakk's career. It was the first time he took a deeper role in the songwriting process, and his guitar work was no longer just a replacement, it became the new soul of the band. The solo in the title track, No More Tears, was a guitar manifesto, fierce and haunting like the cry of a soul torn between heaven and hell. And Mama, I'm Coming Home, the album's only ballad, proved that Zakk could also be tender like a child longing for his mother. He co-wrote that song and helped Ozzy deliver one of the most emotionally resonant hits of his career. After Black Label Society Osmosis 1995, Zakk was invited to join Guns N' Roses to replace Slash, but ultimately declined. He didn't want to leave Ozzy. That choice revealed something core about Zakk's character: loyalty to the man who believed in him, even if it meant passing on bigger fame. Still, Zakk knew if he didn't build something of his own, he'd forever live in someone else's shadow. That's when Black Label Society BLS was born in 1998. Zakk founded BLS not to compete, but to create a world where he could fully be himself. The band embodied raw, wild, growling music, just like Zakk. Their debut album Sonic Brew wasn't a massive commercial hit, but it laid the foundation for a cult-like BLS culture embraced by metal fans worldwide through albums like Stronger Than Death 2019, 19 Eternal 2002, Mafia 2005, and Order of the Black 2010. Zakk didn't just serve as guitarist and vocalist, he was the soul, the map maker, the conductor of an entire empire. Zakk Sabbath, the song In This River, written in memory of Dimebag Darrell, became an unspoken anthem of brotherhood and loss within the metal community. This is Zakk's unique gift. Despite his aggressive music, he never lacked emotional depth in ballads like Spoken the Wheel or Dead as Yesterday. You can feel the spirit of a man who's weathered storms, carrying wounds only music could heal. Zakk didn't stop at BLS. In 2014, he launched Zakk Sabbath, a band dedicated to reinterpreting Black Sabbath classics in his own style. This wasn't just a tribute act, it was Zakk's way of honoring his roots while bringing Sabbath sound closer to a new generation. Then in 2022, a jaw-dropping announcement shook the metal world. Zakk Wylde was chosen to step in for Dimebag Darrell in Pantera's reunion lineup alongside Charlie Bonanti, Anthrax, Phil Anselmo, and Rex Brown. This wasn't a new Panta, but a living tribute where Zakk played Dime's actual guitar with Dime's longtime tech Grady Champion on board to preserve the original sound. For Zakk, this wasn't a career high, it was a sacred duty. He never tried to be Dime-aged, he just wanted to do right by his friend's legacy. Zakk Wylde doesn't have a #1 Billboard album, he doesn't flood the radio with hit singles, but he has a fiercely loyal following, from bikers, war veterans, and underground rockers to young loners who see themselves in BLS's gritty riffs. He didn't create a passing trend, he built an unbreakable fortress, a home for the lost. And in a world where everything is replaceable, Zakk Wylde remains exactly who he is: not a substitute, not to be substituted, a warrior, a storyteller with a guitar and a soul forever fused with metal in a way no one else can. Barbarian replicate personal life. When people think of Zakk Wylde with his wild beard, torn leather vests, sledgehammer heavy guitars, and ferocious growl, few imagine that behind that fierce image lies a man of one true love. In the world of rock and roll, where marriages often shatter like guitars smashed on stage, Zakk Wylde is the rare exception. He married his high school sweetheart Barbarian Wylde and has stayed by her side ever since. Zakk met Barbarian in the 8th grade. In those early years, when he was still playing in dusty rehearsal rooms across New Jersey, she was the one quietly behind the scenes, handling logistics, bringing water, counting the meager gig money, never once asking for credit. She didn't fall in love with a rock star, she fell for a kid with nothing but a guitar and a promise: I'll try my best to the family end. And Zakk kept that promise, not with fame, but with unwavering loyalty. They married in the late 1980s and have 4 children together: Haley, Ray, Jesse, John, Michael, Hicks, Halen, Michael, Rhoads, and Sabbath Page. Their names alone reveal how deeply Zakk's love for music runs, each one a tribute to legends. He revered Jimi Hendrix, Eddie Van Halen, Randy Rhoads, Tony Iommi, and Jimmy Page. But for Zakk, family isn't a shrine to idols, it's the only place he can come home and remove his battle armor. Barbarian is more than just a wife, she's his manager, his road companion on every tour, and the first to notice when his health took a sharp decline in 2009, when Zakk suddenly developed blood clots in his lungs and legs. It was she who rushed him to the hospital. Doctors warned if he continued drinking he could die. Health. Zakk, who used to drink like breathing, who treated Jack Daniels as sole disinfectant, quit alcohol entirely after that scare. It was a decision far from easy, but absolutely necessary for music, for family, for himself. Since then, Zakk has Adopted a healthier lifestyle, eating clean, lifting weights, meditating, and even reading the Bible every morning. He still plays metal, still dresses in black, still roars on stage, but backstage you might find him sitting quietly, eyes closed in prayer, or calling his wife. No affair rumors, no quick rockstar flings before Bar Baron Zakk briefly dated model Susie Owens, but completely cut ties afterward. In over 30 years his name has never been attached to a family scandal in an industry full of lost souls. Zakk chose to stand still and hold tight to the hand that's been with him from the beginning. "I'm a die-hard New York Yankees fan," Zakk once joked, "but I'm even more loyal to my wife than to my team." Beneath the humor lies a rare life philosophy. A man can scream into a sea of strangers, but when he comes home, he still needs a place to quietly lay down his guitar and rest his head on the shoulder of the one he trusts most. For Zakk Wylde, that place has never changed. Legacy and influence. Zakk Wylde didn't leave his mark merely through growling riffs, screaming pinch harmonics that echoed like howls in the night, or his hulking frames slumped over a guitar after every show. He left behind legacy and influence, something deeper, the image of a metal warrior who lived fully, not for fame, not for trends, but out of loyalty to music and the people within it. In the guitar world, Zakk Wylde is an unmistakable icon. He's not the most technically complex player, nor the most revolutionary innovator, but few can craft such a personal guitar tone, the kind that lets you recognize him with just a single note. The sound he created, wild yet profound, became a signature style that influenced generations across genres. From groove metal to doom southern rock to modern heavy, Zakk is also one of the rare artists universally respected across the often divided metal community. Aussie fans, Pantera fans, Black Sabbath loyalists, or BLS diehards, they may not all agree on everything, but they share one sentiment: a shrug, a nod, and a simple "Zakk's the man," because he's never betrayed anyone. On a deeper level, it's Zakk's way of living that defines his legacy in an industry flooded with exit strategies, shifting allegiances, and artists willing to sell everything for attention. Zakk stayed the course, even when it meant walking alone, quitting alcohol, or living in contrast to the world around him. He's proof that you can be a fiery artist and still a devoted husband, a gentle father, and a loyal friend who doesn't vanish when things get tough. And perhaps Zakk Wylde's greatest legacy doesn't lie in albums like No More Tears, Mafia, or Doom Crew Inc., but in his irreplaceable presence on stage, where he doesn't just play guitar but sends out a message that metal is not just sound, it's loyalty, courage, and unshakable belief. What makes a true metal legend for Zakk Wylde? The answer may be this: he never tried to become one, he simply stayed true to himself, and that was enough. Current life, though now 58 years current life old, Zakk Wylde shows no signs of slowing down. In fact, 2024 and 2025 have seen him at perhaps his most energized and active state since turning 50, not just performing but honoring the legacies he grew up with, fought alongside, and now continues to carry forward. The centerpiece of Zakk's current activities is the ongoing Panta Tour, a massive global tribute launched in 2022 to honor the band's late members Dimebag Darrell and Vinnie Paul. In 2025, Zakk and Pantera continue to bring this tour to North America's biggest stages, from Philadelphia and Tampa to Santa Clara and Denver. With Dimebag's actual guitar in hand, Zakk isn't just playing music, he's resurrecting memories. Fans who once mourned Panta's end now stand before the stage, shedding tears for a presence that feels different but genuine, heartfelt, and worthy at the same time. Zakk is also a key performer on the Experience Hendrix Tour 2025, a nationwide celebration of one of his childhood heroes, Jimi Hendrix, spanning March to April 2025. Legacy across dozens of cities in the US and Canada, the tour features guitar legends like Kenny Wayne Shepherd, Eric Johnson, and Marcus King, but Zakk has been one of the most talked about acts thanks to his distinct style that channels not just technique but unfiltered rock and roll soul. Meanwhile, Zakk remains the frontman of Zakk Sabbath, his tribute band to Black Sabbath. In late 2024 and early 2025, they toured the US on the King of the Monsters circuit alongside tribute acts like Zoso and the Iron Maidens. In early 2025, Zakk Sabbath continued their journey across Europe from Manchester to Berlin, playing iconic covers like NIB, Iron Man, and War Pigs as a tribute to Tony Iommi, whom Zakk reverently calls the father of heavy metal. On top of that, Zakk released a digital album titled Greatest Riffs with Zakk Sabbath, a compilation of fan-favorite covers. The album has been warmly received not only by diehard fans, but also as a milestone marking over 30 years of Zakk keeping the Sabbath flame alive. Perhaps the most emotional moment of 2025 will be Zakk's participation in Black Sabbath's farewell concert scheduled for July 5, 2025 at Villa Park in Birmingham. This historic show marks the full reunion of Ozzy Osbourne, Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, and Bill Ward. After more than 2 decades, Zakk isn't an official member of Sabbath, but his invitation to perform at this farewell night proves how deeply woven he is into the band's spiritual legacy. When he's not touring, Zakk spends time at home in California with his wife Bar Baron and their 4 children. He continues to avoid fleeting temptations and maintains a healthy lifestyle after quitting alcohol in 2009, appearing on podcasts, talk shows, and behind the Scenes videos he always exudes warmth and humor, but also the discipline and intensity of a true musical warrior. Zakk Wylde has never announced retirement, and perhaps he never will, because even when the lights go out he'll still be playing for Aussie, for Dimebag, for Sabbath, for metal fans around the world, and for himself, the man who never stopped living for music. So what about you? If you could witness a Zakk Wylde performance right now, what song would you choose to hear? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more real-life stories of blood, sweat, and music like the one you've just watched. Thanks for being here, and see you in the next video. Rock on!